Welcome to Focus Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome back for episode 88 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on June 8th, 2017 on twitch.tv. Big shout out to the live chat here. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. This is your host, Blue Crew 86. Alongside me, we still have the man who is actively seeking out new and interesting SNEC gifts between Iron Banner matches, Justin Sane 0516. Justin, how have the drops been for you this week?
You use the word actively very loosely, but whatever. No, the drops have been amazing. It's actually funny. You spend like 4 months looking for a 400 ghost, and then you get one, and then everything you get is 400, just for a little bit.
That's like it's the Matt Oshie gif where he's the hunter and the titan, and the Yellowhorn falls down, and then just a deluge of them. That's how I feel.
Yeah,
it's like
pretty much
dry, drip, avalanche.
Yeah, that's how it's been. But it's been fun. I've been playing a warlock a lot, and I have this one thing to say. I think all the warlocks out there should apologize.
What?
Yes,
Why?
I think they should, because I didn't even know that my hunter had a garbage melee. Everyone jokes about it. I had no clue until I ran up to a Tink Tink, which is a Sunbreaker if you're not familiar with the vernacular, and double melee'd him, and he died. So
as a warlock?
As a Stormcaller.
Yeah, I was about to say as a Tickle Fingers.
Yes. So
tickle.
I think all the warlocks should just get together and issue just an apology for their crimes against humanity. This is a bit much.
God.
And all anger should be directed to at Justin Sane 0516. Oh man.
Just blow up his Twitter feed even more than we already have tonight.
Why not? Oh crap.
You haven't checked that one, have you?
No, haven't gone to that avenue.
Fun.
Well, Mel is working while we're here playing around, so be sure to let her know we miss her over on Twitter at The Wind of the Stars. And from the depths of the madness-inducing mind maps, we are joined by our favorite Gunter, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, hope you're doing well. How's the week gone for you? Got any good drops?
I have had a lot of adulting this week. Some really good news, though. So anybody who helped me with the new sports nutrition class that I was taking, I actually passed with a 95% thanks to a lot of you guys. So thank you if you helped me out in Discord chat.
Yeah.
I am officially certified to do sports nutrition, meal planning, and stuff like that now. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Good. So that's been my week, dealing with getting all that news and a lot of adulting aside. That is not as fun, but that's great. It's good.
It's one less thing I have to worry about.
Exactly.
I know that one.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Well, let's run through the intro real quick, and then we'll dive into our conversation about Guardians. The topic of today's chat is going to be a look at the updates to the lore we have about our Guardians. I asked Green to put together a high-level summary on the topic, and this is what she had to say.
What makes a Guardian a Guardian? We take our first breath with no memory of who we were before. Yet we are inexorably drawn to the light. We fight, we die, and we live again. We know we were chosen for a reason, by something greater than ourselves. For as deep and wide as humanity's rivers have run, it has now been reduced down to a precious few. Needed something to believe in, and a place to call home. This is what we've been called to. The future that we fight for. The future that we will protect. Shaped by the fires of each new battle, we are forged and sharpened into what we must become for the fight ahead. What we have built is only the beginning, a symbol of what we can achieve, of who we are and our great purpose here. But the day may come when we will be tested, when all we hold dear is threatened, and then we will see what each of us is truly made of.
Before we get into that, however, I do have a few housekeeping notes. In our last chat, we took a look at the updated information of The Last City. If you missed that and have any interest in hearing our thoughts, please be sure to check out the new www.focusfirechat.com for archives of all previous chats, as well as links to the other aspects of Focus Fire Chat out in the internets, and even a growing collection of community articles. If you don't mind, please give us some feedback on iTunes to let us know how we're doing and to help us continue to grow. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Friday at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a recap of the previous week's chat for those who are unable to participate. Please be sure to also give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network found at theguardiansofdestiny.com. These include Guardian Radio, the official podcast for the Guardians of Destiny, Guardian 1, Ghosts and Echoes, which also has the Destiny Audio Grimoire, and the network's newest edition, a non-Destiny focused podcast, Paragon Radio. Our next chat's going to be a dive into the lore of the Deep Stone Crypt. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the information and thoughts that our community had about Guardians. Lorebot, let's go.
Query Grimoire Database. Results found. Displaying on screen.
Thank you, Randy. So, Guardians. Kind of the cornerstone of everything to do with this game we love so much called Destiny. Why don't we...
Just a bit. just a little bit.
Without them, there's no game. So why don't we start with Guardian abilities? Might help to illustrate just a little bit of what makes a Guardian, or how extraordinary they actually are. Mm-hmm. There is a light within you from which no darkness can hide. Only Guardians have the gift of the Traveler's Light, the ability to channel its energies and to project vast power into the world. Even without a firearm, a Guardian is a radiant engine of destruction. While these abilities rise from within, Guardians master their power in different ways. Titans understand the light as a force to hone through practice and strict discipline. Hunters roam and explore in order to learn, using dangerous methods to survive the wilds. And warlocks study the light and its inner mechanisms, confronting unfathomable mysteries in the search for transcendent might.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
I did want to expand just a little bit. So we did, and we're going to get into this when we start talking about the Destiny 2 piece, because this understanding of Guardians, there is an implied lesson here within this card that kind of gets corrected, I guess, or well, clarified and redirected with the Destiny 2 Homecoming trailer, or Homecoming mission. It's a mission, right? Isn't Homecoming the mission, or is it?
It's the first one.
Story mission.
Okay. So, and that's the one. Correct me, Justin. That's the one that you get cut off, right, from the Traveler.
Well, in the part that we got to play, you hadn't got cut off yet.
Okay,
You still
okay.
had grenades and supers and stuff.
Okay, so we don't know if that's the mission where the Traveler gets blocked.
Exactly. Well, it's starting to happen. So
Okay.
at the end of we didn't get to see the real end of the mission, but the starfish of death was in place, and it was primed for that.
Okay, so because like you saw the clip where the starfish engulfs, I'm just calling it the starfish because it's just accepted now.
Because I ruined things.
Yeah, the starfish of death has attacked the pearl of light, and so like, but you see, there was a clip where all the guardians started like falling, and they couldn't walk, they couldn't, they were cut off from the light, and that really clarified quite a bit about kind of a metaphysics explanation of what it is that the guardians have. Here a lot of people read that first line, that while these abilities rise from within, as saying that the guardians actually do manifest the light from within. It's not necessarily that they need, like the Traveler was, we all kind of thought of the Traveler as kind of a jump starter. Like it started the process, but it wasn't required necessarily to keep the process going. Which, it was kind of ambiguous. We didn't know if that was actually the case. Well, now we know that is not the case. We actually do need the Traveler. And this has been confirmed, 100%. So there's not really a lot of room for debate like where there was. I don't think that necessarily changes the idea that light belongs to everything, that there's a bit of light in everything. You see that in the Ghost Fragment Thorn cards, where Yor is actually trying to eat he's harvesting the flicker of light within the bandit, because those bandits are I'm pretty sure that those bandits are not guardians, given the way that they react to his being a guardian. And the fact that they have a flicker of light means that light is kind of that anima type spiritual power type thing. That doesn't change. So the only thing that really changed is the fact that light, the amount of light, it's the ability to actually manifest that light in a weaponized form that was unique to the Guardians. That is inherently linked with the connection to the Traveler, which is through the ghost that the Guardian is traveling with. Which we have a Guardian who kind of throws a wrench in that entire paradigm. We're going to talk about her later as well. But Justin, I know you had something.
Yeah, I just want to. My favorite portion of this card is when it refers to a guardian as a radiant engine of destruction. And this is kind of like the engine model is how I like to think of light just in general. An engine of any sort creates nothing. All it does is convert energy from one form to another. So it takes, fuel and converts that into physical motion or whatever it's trying to produce. And I don't think the Guardian actually produces anything in this cycle of light. Rather, we just convert it into, we convert it to a usable form. So the light is just like energy in our world. It's constantly being converted from one form to another, from state to state to state, never being created nor destroyed. Just a giant circle of life. Insert Lion King joke here. But an idea that I kind of had, but it's in no way confirmed or even likely. But the fact that we have trouble even walking, as we can see in some of the cutscenes or in some of the gameplay footage from the reveal, when the Traveler's taken from us, could it just be that having had such an unbridled use of the light for so long that our mortal muscles have kind of atrophied?
Yeah,
atrophied a little bit.
I think that exactly, because the thing is like after a while you you still are able to move.
Yeah,
right.
It's almost like we're learning to walk again, because it's like if you lived your life using like a powerful mech exosuit to do everything, right? You walked to the kitchen and got your cereal and poured it. Well, if you did that for like 10 years and then your mech broke down one day and you had to walk to the kitchen,
help!
you would
I
look
fallen.
like one of those guardians. Yes, exactly.
What's the infomercial? The help button.
The safe. Oh gosh, what is it? Something safe.
Oh yeah. No, but also I had this image in my head, and I don't know if you guys had the same one. Do you not think that when the starfish latched onto the traveler, that Gaul just somewhere to someone said, "Paper covers rock"? Like, I want that to happen.
That would be hilarious.
Go on, Green.
Just need the scissors. Serious. I don't know anymore.
Life call alert. That's what
that's what it is.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Those commercials make me sad.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that emotion. That's the one that happens with those.
Not sad because of the fact that they've. Well, okay, never mind. I don't want to keep going down that track. The thing that I want to point out is one of the things that has been talked about in the past is if we lost the light from the traveler, would we immediately fall down dead?
Right. No, and that's what I mean is.
Right. We still like Justin was saying is we are able to still have some sort of animus or some sort of animating energy on our own now. We're not just zombies that have liches, zombies.
No, there's
whichever you want to.
Vast difference. Anyways,
okay.
No, but I mean, and that's kind of where I was going too. Is like we now know kind of it's a combination, right? It's when our guardians were resurrected, we were brought back into this world completely, because when we get cut off from the traveler, we're not just animated corpses. Like when our source of life gets cut off from us, we are still capable of, moving and being independent. We're going to talk about a little bit here, some of the guardians who kind of don't really follow the teachings of the traveler.
I also think that it's more of now with just kind of the visual that we had with Zavala's is that we're resurrected multiple times.
Right.
I mean, that's just how the function of the game works. So the healing light now to me seems more like a healing type factor rather than just a energy factor or a superhuman metaphysical factor. It kind of heals up because I mean we would be riddled with wounds if it didn't heal up.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I have an argument that's why Guardians don't age, is because it's a Wolverine factor. It's just constantly returning you to the prime state of whatever the ghost has deemed to be the prime state for your Guardian. Which is
I would say Lazarus Pit almost.
Right. Well, I mean,
Wolverine.
yeah, same concept. I mean, the reason I was saying Wolverine is because the ghost is always there with you, whereas with the Lazarus Pit, it was you had to go to the lot. You also lost your soul.
That's true.
But
that's true.
But I mean, like the idea that I guess I have been kind of corrected to is that now I see that it's basically and Justin, correct my terminology here. I'm just going to say this and I'm probably going to say it wrong, but the traveler and the ghost are basically giant extra capacitors upon which we can store a reservoir of light to pull from. Whereas a normal person only has, like the drop or two of light that they have. We have buckets of it. And so that's why we can actually, that's why we are, quote, a radiant engine of destruction. Whereas a normal person, they have enough light to be tasty to, someone who eats light, but they're not,
tasty.
but they're a small morsel compared to a guardian who is a proverbial feast of light. Was it Justin? Would that be correct terminology? I don't know if that's correct terminology.
Well, okay. Whether or not it's correct just depends on how you, how you view the traveler, the ghost, and the guardian. That little triumvirate in its inner workings with the lights. I mean, the way you described it is absolutely correct. A capacitor stores a charge from an anode to a cathode, one with, from a positive to a negative charge, and then just waits for an opportunity to discharge that. So in that kind of relationship, I could see the ghost being a capacitor. The traveler itself, I don't know if it follows the same model or not. If it's storing a built-up charge from somewhere else, I almost like to think of the travelers more like the engine model than an actual battery or capacitor. But I mean, all this is unconfirmed.
Right.
But
So
I think to answer your question, the vernacular you were using was absolutely correct.
The traveler would be the converter process, or the thing that allows the conversion to happen, whereas the ghost is the actual filter. No, I don't know. So you've got the guardian who's being able to, because there's many examples of our guardian drawing on the light, right? So if I think that this process actually happens somewhat in parallel with the ghost. So the ghost isn't the sole conduit for everything that gets to the traveler. So if you believe that, which, is kind of a reach, you might not, that's fine. You could look at the traveler as some sort of generator or engine, and you could look at the ghost as a capacitor and the guardian as a conductor. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
I could draw it.
I know. No, I mean, it's just I'm not like savvy on the electrical aspect of it. So I'm trying, like, to me that makes sense, but I don't know if I'm using, like, I know what I'm like. Yeah, I can draw it, but I can't really probably process it verbally. It's all about how you view the light. If you view it as being something that's all around us all the time, and just these certain few can actually make good use of it, does it really solely come from the traveler? Or does the traveler just imbue us with an ability to make use of this, omnipresent force that's all encompassing? So yeah, I mean, whether or not you're quote unquote right, I think has to do with, what's confirmed later, because it's all very vague now. But it's also how we get our light back. How that whole thing works.
That may be the single most telling thing in this whole thing we call D2.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one of my questions that happens with the loss of light and everything. What happens to our ghost? We obviously get the ghost back because you guys had the ghost in the strike.
Yes. Yeah.
But
and we all just kind of had to go, okay, like, just accept it,
But is the ghost affected the same way that we are? Does the ghost fall off, type of thing?
I would think if you think of the ghosts as sort of ancillas of the traveler, so kind of like we talked with the Titanfall stuff, the spyglass units, as them being like, obviously a ghost isn't an automaton, but if you think of them as being nodes of the traveler, if the traveler is subdued, the ghosts are obviously going to be not present. I don't think they're dead. I just think they're hindered.
Well, and we know that is kind of something that happens because that's where like the dead ghosts that we collect grimoire cards from. And then also there's the ghost fragment cabal, where the ghost is stuck underneath Mars and he's running out, or it's running out of light. And so it's like
we
hiding.
know that they can lose energy. We know that.
Well, what I mean is, if you kind of follow that into the implied path here, the reason it's losing. So, okay, let me back up. The Ghost Fragment Cabal card, right? It's the ghost that's underneath and it's running out of light because it's basically lost connection with the traveler. I mean, it's outside of the reach. It's in a dead zone. It's in a dark zone. Dead zone because Justin keeps referring to it as cell phones. It makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. But anyway, so like it's running out of light. It can't recharge itself. So, but what I mean is, so if you just take that and expand it into the situation that we find at the end of Destiny, or at the beginning of Destiny 2, right? So instead of having to be past Jupiter to run out of connection to the traveler, now it's everyone is out of connection with the traveler. So the same process would happen, I think. Like you would still, I think that a ghost could still operate a bit without it, but it's gonna go into like a extreme, like it's gonna be your cell phone on a low battery. It's in power saving mode.
It'll take them even longer to open doors.
So think about this, Blue.
That's why the dead zone's all outside. We can't open doors.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. No, think about this. Start thinking of the ghost like, the artificial intelligence that it is, because it is. What happens to volatile memory when you don't keep a charge on it?
We're gonna have drunk ghosts.
Exactly.
Oh my god. Okay, so just hang on.
That would be good.
You guys have seen Big Hero 6, right?
We
jumped out a window.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening to Baymax in that scene.
Well, and that is actually what's happening. He's got a low battery. Oh my gosh, yes.
But answer me this. What happens when it's lost altogether?
Well, I guess that's the question too, because
when the battery that backs up your volatile memory, when it dies, what happens?
Does the ghost have a charge though? Does it have a battery bank?
Well, yeah, but what he's saying, like, what happens after? Because, like, so real quick, going down this road, Justin, I'm going to pull up the Dead Ghost card, right? It says, Dead Ghost, battered and drained of their light, these ghosts are nevertheless valuable for the information they preserve. Their recovered memories may well prove vital to the city's survival. The problem of dead ghosts troubles the city's scholars. Are new ghosts still being born, or is the number of ghosts dwindling? Will there come a day when no more remain, an end to the rise of new guardians? If that day is coming, then the city faces a desperate race against time to heal the traveler before attrition takes its toll. So, I think that to go into let's talk about like a laptop or a cell phone, right? Your battery can run out of juice. Like if your cell phone has ever died, this. You don't lose all the information, right? You don't lose all the information. The information is still technically stored there. So like, and it also, I mean, I guess, Justin, it also depends on how that information's stored. Because, you could say the same thing about a human. If a human loses all its energy, the information's kind of gone because the synapses are electric currents, which actually could be the argument why guardians don't have memories. By the way,
electric and chemical.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like when a mortal thing
person
dies, the electric current stops. Like there is no electric current. There's no chemical communication within those synapses. And so technically, if you're going to go down that road, that could explain why none of the Guardians or the Risen have memories of their past life, because they forgot. Literally, the synapses all died. There was no rebuilding of a synapses. If you understand a synapses to be the electrical current, it's a restarted current. So there's basically a new persona running this body that is just the meat suit of a former thing.
But it definitely seems as Zavala's going through his little, and we'll get to this later, I'm sure, but
yes.
When he's going through his little progression of die, revive, die, revive, die, revive, in the beginning, he remembers nothing. He awakens with, or at least from his actions, you get the impression that he doesn't know who he is and what he's doing. But
he even says it.
Yeah, I think he does say it.
In Ghost Fragment abilities, they say it as well. Saladin says it.
So actually, the synapses are actually the connections.
Right.
So those are the firing points in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could build you could think of his brain as being manipulated by the ghost each time as he's being revived. Each time he's revived, there's more connections being reconnected or repaired. At least that's the way I think of it. So each time, he regains a little bit more from the last time. Each time he gets a little bit, because at some point when we're revived, we're the same person. So it's a slow building process.
I have a theory on that. So, and this might be getting way into the weeds on the mechanics and the lore here, but if you want to go down that road, right? If you're going to say that synapsis is and I mean, you're right, synapsis is the firing point and all that. But if you're like, what you're saying here is there's an eventual point where you actually retain the memory, because you see that with Guardians. They learn when they die, right? They remember things after. Mm-hmm. And so what I think that actually could be argued is that is the mechanism of the countdown for your ghost revival. Because that's the time until that synapses stops. If you really want to get like kind of technical, everyone has like that cooldown. You could say that is what's needed to repair the synapses, or that is the electric current. That you have a time limit until that current stops. Everyone, I mean, that current doesn't, like when you die, the current doesn't immediately stop. And there's plenty of historical examples. I mean,
there's a lot of scientific examples.
Yeah, go look at the French Revolution and all the fun experiments they did with the guillotine. It does not immediately stop. I promise.
Well, you can do that with a chicken too.
Oh yeah,
there's a reason a chicken running around with its head cut off. But as far as the way the brain works with synapses, I actually would think, as far as the Guardian not having previous memories, it's just how long the Guardian has been dead. Because the way that synapses form, think about a dirt road. You go down a dirt road, the very first time there's no dirt road there. So you travel a path and you break down the weeds. And then the more you travel it, the more established that road becomes, to where it eventually is a really easy road to go down. Same thing works in your brain. You have to create the pathways in your brain. So us having experiences, the multiple experiences we have, creates more pathways, which would create more synapses, more connections within the brain itself. So it makes sense that if our Guardian had been dead for a very, very long time, if it had a chemical wipe, essentially, where there are no synapses anymore firing, and then we're reborn or risen again, that you would keep your memories because you hadn't been dead that long. Those chemical pathways are still there. Those different synapses are not completely dead, like Blue said.
Yeah, and I would actually liken Zavala's little journey from being risen and then dying and revive, die, revive. He's building those pathways much like a baby does. Like, exactly. how children form short-term and long-term memory is very much an additive process. It's like it's an aggregate. Your accruing more connections. Each time you get more connections and you recall them, it builds your capacity to have things like short-term memory, longer-term memory. I have an 8-year-old. Sometimes I think he has no memory, especially when it has to do with something I want him to do that he doesn't want to.
What?
But if it's something that maybe is gonna, like bite me in the butt, he could call on it in an instant. Memory's really good.
No, Dad. You said this.
Yes, exactly. So, but no, I'm completely there with you. I love the dirt road analogy.
Yeah, and I agree too. I totally agree. You see that with that's where you get the argument of what muscle memory is. To a degree,
exactly.
muscle memory. I mean, there is. So, oh God, muscle memory is so weird. Muscle memory is actually a really weird combo of synapses firing and your actual muscles. It's a tactile understanding of the sensation of a muscle moving a particular way, basically. So it's
sort of,
yeah. So, but I mean, what I mean there is if you build a habit, that's where your habits come from. Is those are synapses that have been ingrained into your mind. And that's why, when you're talking about habits, that's why you have phrases such as, you fall into a rut, or it's very hard to break a habit. It's because you're actually trying to disconnect the synapses that's in your brain. And it's not impossible.
Retrain.
It's not impossible, but it is very difficult. That's where, 40 days, right, to build new habits, I think is approximate. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the whole process itself, as far as breaking habits, you can't technically break a habit. You have to retrain the habit. You can't get rid of those synapses on their own. You have to create a new pathway or a new modem, essentially, of doing what you're doing. So if you're a smoker, you technically cannot break the habit of having the urge to pull something to your mouth. That's why a lot of smokers chew bubble gum or do just have a cigarette that's not actually tobacco at all. They have to have that draw for a long time because they're trying to retrain their brain not to crave the nicotine, besides the nicotine being a chemical addiction.
There's also your synapses pathways. They no, it's not to say that a synapses can't fall apart.
Right.
A synapses. So this is a huge thing in green. I know you're probably aware of this. Education. Education is a huge component, especially fine arts. There's a very, very big argument towards fine arts being very, very important because there is a very large portion of the statement, if you don't use it, you lose it. When it comes to your mind, that is very accurate. If you do not use parts of your brain, the synapses in there just don't, they die. And it's not they're gone forever, but it's very difficult. Well, those synapses are. You can rebuild the synapses pathways, but they're very difficult. And so that's when you look at elementary school curriculum, that's why there's a little bit of everything, because they're trying to continuously trigger those synapses pathways to make sure that those aspects of the brain don't dry up and die. And sadly, a lot of that usually kind of goes into the fine arts. Fine arts is one of the things that a lot of people don't quote unquote focus on. And so that's where you don't have, in public school. I went to public school, so I can kind of badmouth public school. Public school, that's why a lot of people don't read a lot, is in those schools, they're focused on testing. They're focused on the end result. And, they don't focus on music, enjoying what you're doing. They don't enjoy that.
Even if you want to go from the scientific perspective, and I could do probably a whole podcast on this itself, the fact that music, especially instrumentalists,
yes,
vocalists do it a little bit too, but instrumentalists in and of themselves, they have hooked instrumentalists up to an EKG, or not an EKG. They've done brain scans of them, and the amount of the brain that fires up when a student or even a professional musician is playing and reading music is incredible, because you not only are working on reading the thing, you're processing that, you're also listening to everything around you and assimilating that and being able to put that out and adjust everything at the same time while technically physically adjusting things. There's so many things you have to micromanage as a musician, which is why students, when they first start, sound like crap, because they haven't made those connections yet. Not only, they just haven't trained themselves to be able to do all the things and listen to all the things. So
that's why marching band is so freaking difficult. Because then, on top of all that, you have to walk
and
in
have
coordinated
fashion.
Steps.
And certain size steps. Yeah. And remember where you're supposed to be on the field.
Oh God!
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff when it comes to a musician that fires up so many more brains. That's why there's all these studies out there about how if you learn just a single instrument as a child, it's going to help you throughout the rest of your life, because you have, like Blue said, if you don't use it, you lose it, because our brain is an efficiency computer. I mean, if you do not use it, it's going to reprocess what you are working on and what you're focusing on. Is going to send all the power to that and store it for a little while and then get rid of it if it doesn't need it.
Yeah, and the sad thing is you see kids who don't focus on music. It's very apparent. Like it's just, to me, it's very apparent, having worked with both aspects. I've actually, before I started working with the job that I do now, I actually was in education enrichment. So we saw a lot of the I wouldn't say it was the darker side, but it was the side that needed a lot of attention. We saw a lot of that. And one of the first things that we a lot of times did was just recommend that they do stuff. Like they get out and they, pick a sport, pick a musical instrument was always the thing that we tried to push. And it was tough for these kids, because they just had for so long not even used that part of the brain that it literally just, I'm not going to say it wasn't there, but it wasn't. Like,
it makes it difficult. It makes it very difficult for them to adjust or do things that you ask them to do that require that part of the brain.
But it also I'll wrap my part of this up, because I can go on forever for this one. It also opens up the ability to multitask. Like that's, like what you were saying there earlier, Green. It's the multiple processes and multiple micromanaging is immense. Do you want to have a last word on that one?
As far as the
kids and the music, because I feel like we could go on for a long time on this topic.
I could get up on the bandstand just a tiny bit, but music, and it's not just music, art does the same thing, although performance art tends to activate a bit more in some respects. But the importance of having a child at least be in music and being involved in music in some way, shape, or form, whether they're singing or playing an instrument, at least for the first couple of years that they can, is crucial. Just absolutely crucial. So if you want your child to be the best they kind of can be, this is my bandstand moment for the night. Make sure that they are in music, even if they hate it. At first, find them an instrument or find them a private teacher or find them something that they can get involved in with that, because it's really important to help provide things for them later on. But that's just me. And done. Okay.
Well, so like I was going to say, we were going to talk, I think we should talk about the Shadows of Yore just a little bit. I don't know if we necessarily need to read the cards.
It's a pretty long one.
It's a pretty long one, but and the reason I was going to pull them in was because they really kind of show, guardians are not mindless. They don't just blindly necessarily have to follow the speaker or the vanguard. They have their own ability to choose what path they take. And we see that a lot within the Rise of Iron. I think we kind of mentioned the last time we really discussed something about Guardians was actually back in May of 2016. Like we've talked about Guardians here and there within the podcast, but like the last time an episode was really dedicated to actual Guardians, I think was back on the Warlocks episode. So since then, we've had a couple really big pieces of information drop. You had your Rise of Iron in September, and then Age of Triumph in March, both which have significant information updates. And one of those updates was the Shadows of Yore, and also the clarification of what exactly happened with the Dark Ages and the Warlords and the early Guardians, the Iron Lords. And I don't know, Green, do you want to kind of expand on Shadows a little bit and just kind of talk about what we see with the Shadows and how that kind of translates into Guardians?
Well, I mean, kind of what you were saying, it's not just the Shadows of Yore card that kind of explains that. We have many examples of Guardians who thought for themselves and got kicked out of the tower for it. They're not mindless at all in any way, shape, or form. A lot of them have things that they want to do on their own. As far as the abilities of the Yours, it kind of makes me want to go ahead and jump into some of the Thorn card and the Last Word card, just to get a little bit more about how they interacted with the light itself and how they're able to absorb the light.
Let's do that then. Let's talk, because and chat's kind of talking about this too. The Warlords are actually really very similar to the Shadows in the way that you see them deviate from what we would commonly assume is a what they call light bearers. Warlords came before us, and the Shadows are kind of concurrently now rising. So yeah, I think talking about how they deal with the light, and then we can also kind of mention the whole thing with Ephrodite, because Ephrodite also presents an alternative manner of approaching the use of light as well in her own way. So why don't you go ahead and walk us through the Shadows, and then we'll kind of talk about Ephrodite a little bit.
Meaning you want me to read the Shadows?
Let's not read the Shadows. Do you want to summarize Thorn and the Last Word 5 and talk about how that implies the light breaking?
Summarizing Thorn 5. Well, it talks about how they've... Okay, so quite literally, Thorn 5's short. I'll just read the interaction between it. We have tamed the sickness, broken it with unwilling sacrifice. Now we claim our reward. Have you heard whispers, brothers, sisters? The shadow speaks. All we have to do is listen. Its secrets are a gift. Its gift, our evolution. The others misunderstand. We are weapons of sorrow, living and free, the hated heroes of this broken age. And as far as the interaction of it, the fact that they tamed the sickness, and we've talked about this within kind of the whole Last Word episode that we've talked about, just how the update with it, how the darkness, how they have tamed what they're claiming to tame is the difference between them and
Rezel.
It's Shin, not Rezel, which turns into why am I blanking tonight? Thank you. It's like, why are you making me do this since I can't remember names of major characters?
Names are not important.
Names are
Justin.
important.
Justin doesn't remember names.
You remember that one.
When you don't remember a name, Green, you make it up.
I was about to say, this is...
Is that how, like, we have all the strange names for all the characters now?
That's exactly.
And in this, you are never wrong.
Gary.
So.
Okay, I still love Gary. I love that one.
Starts with a G.
But they're just okay. So back to the thorn. They're claiming that they have figured out how to adjust to the darkness without having the darkness completely overwhelm them, like it did for your.
Yeah, and they also you also kind of see this. You also see this a little bit with Eris, in that they are becoming something else. Like, you know, we kind of talked about this with the story of your episode, but you know, there's almost a sense that they're saying that they are the weapons of sorrow, not their actual guns. No, they have made themselves weapons of sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that goes into the whole idea of is the weapon bad, or are the people that wield the weapon bad? I mean, that's just that whole argument right there, that they're considering themselves the weapon.
Is that like if guns kill people, do pencils misspell words? That type of thing?
Kind of.
No, but the spoon does make you fat, so.
Oh, okay.
It's the spoon in the ice cream bowl.
No,
Yeah.
I think when you talk in broad strokes, you there's a very real argument here that Dredgen is much more a weapon of sorrow than his canon will ever be, in that he caused much more heartache and sorrow in his actions and the arc of his narrative than his gun could ever, wrought with just by killing people. And that's like a very figurative approach to it, but I think that's kind of how they're talking. I don't think they believe they're actual weapons. I think they're very emo, and they've been listening to a lot of Morrissey, and they just
Morrissey.
it's time.
They shop at they shop at Hot Topic.
Yes, they shop at but Hot Topic does have some cool stuff.
They do. But
No.
okay, so I would liken them to kind of think of how what we perceive terrorist. Wow, words. The main purpose of them. Their main purpose is to create terror. The Shadows of Yore and Dredgen Yore. They wanted to sow sorrow, so I guess you would call them sorrowist.
Yeah, because they're very much more than terrorists, because terrorists feed off of your sense of stability and your sense of hope for a good life and for you and yours.
Wait, what? They feed off what? They feed off your hope?
Your hope. See, terrorists could not be effective without your hope and your sort of internal dream for a good life for you and your family.
I know.
That's their
if you
power.
But that's exactly what Dredgen did.
Exactly. So, but with no hope, there can be no absolute terror, right?
Yep.
These guys are much more like sorrowists, I guess.
I mean, they themselves may not have hope, or what their hope is in something completely different, but they are definitely targeting people who have hope and have a dream and want to go on. The big thing, I guess if you want to call them a sorrowist, or if we want to call them a sorrowist, is that their methods are much more what we would consider dark in some ways compared to some of the flashiness of what we consider terrorists today. I view these guys as more of kind of mobsters they're mobsters without actually wanting any money. They're the guys in the background who are just kicking the crap out of you because that's what they want to do.
Now I literally just have an image in my head of them, like some really emo guardians, trying to pressure Evil Levante to give them protection money.
I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse.
Hey, it'd be awfully sorrowful if this place were to burn down right now with all of your emotes and whatnot. That's what I have in my head. I'm sorry.
I mean, I would call out the fact that they mention unwilling sacrifice, which I'm sorry. The what now?
That's called murder.
Yes.
Yeah, that's yeah. Now we know what that big red stain by Raoul's little basement is.
Oh God.
We're not supposed to talk about that.
Oh God.
But I mean, the flip side of Thorn 5 is the less
that is
word
hard to
5. Right? I was like, that was an unexpected tongue twister.
The flip side of Thorn 5.
The flip side of Thorn 5.
Hey, Blue, do you want to you wanna act this one out?
Oh God. But there's no Bandit 1.
There is not. There's use it 1 and use it 2.
Hang on.
Mario and Luigi? I don't know if this is the right card, is it?
Yeah, this is the ghost.
This is Ghost
Shin.
Fragment. Yeah.
Last word 5?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You're talking about the one with the ghost. I think you're right.
Yeah, last word 5. I'm
Yeah,
looking
it's got a
at
ghost.
it
It's got a
now.
ghost and then Shin. Which one do you want?
I'll take Shin.
Okay, now I have to figure out which one's Shin. User
It's-
2 is
User
Shin.
Guard.
1 would be the user 1 would be the ghost.
User 1 is
2 would be
Guardian.
Shin.
Yeah.
Okay,
Of course
ready?
that
Gonna
one.
be Shin.
That one.
Yes.
Bandit number 1. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Will you fight them?
The shadows?
Those who have taken up arms in the name of Yor.
The hope is they're more careful than their inspiration.
Do you believe that will make a difference?
No.
Then what will you do?
The Vanguard has an eye on.
Their Vanguard has their eye on many things.
I'm aware.
Then what will you do?
What needs to be done?
Can I just say that the way that you read that, Blue, makes me seem like the ghost is kind of the
Pissed off?
strong
The
arm.
pissed off version. I mean, okay, this card actually kind of, to me, verifies my thought that Shin's ghost is Ward's
Angry?
ghost. No, it's Ward's
Yeah.
ghost. Like, he's pissed. I can't read this not reading that ghost as being very angry. Like, he is very angry in my reading of it. Because I mean, like, for example, the reason why I kind of put the implied anger in there is so he kind of starts, and so we don't know where the conversation was. We don't know if we're coming in the middle of this conversation, but okay, let's say we come into the middle of this conversation. Okay, fine. He's asking about the fight, right? He's asking, are you going to chase him down, basically? And he confirms it, and then you say, and then this is where it kind of starts going downhill for the ghost in my mind, is Shin is actually kind of like, you know, he's actually kind of cautiously almost not optimistic, but he's kind of like, okay, you know, the hope
He's
is
hopeful.
blah, blah. And the ghost is like, really, like, you think that's gonna actually make a difference? And like, you could see Shin's kind of like, no. Like, you can feel the kind of like, no, but I really want. And then like he tries to say, oh, the Vanguard had, because this is, you know, we have the Ghost Fragment Widow's Court, where Shin is like, you guys don't know what you're messing with, and Ikora, who was the designate right then, was like, no, we have our eye on it, blah blah blah. And so that's what he's like, the Vanguard has an eye on it, and the ghost interrupts him. Like, that's the thing, is in this card the ghost actually interrupts Shin and directly says, right, like, I mean, he's like, yeah, oh yeah, sure, they have their eyes on a lot of things. And I mean, and then he goes back and he like puts pressure on Shin. Like, he asked him a second time verbatim, what are you going to do about this?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like Shin doesn't want doesn't necessarily want to go after them. It almost sounds like he's trying to push it off on other people.
Well, he doesn't
I don't-
want to
I
be
don't-
faced with this.
I don't think he wants to take the role of vigilante. Like,
Would that be vigilante though?
oh yeah, taking the shadows. I mean, so like I equate. Okay, everyone knows that I'm obsessed with Dark Tower. No surprise there. I equate Shin.
What?
Yeah, really. I know, Justin. It's a really cool book series that we're actually reading in the book club. You should join.
Shout out.
But
Can't find it.
Shin, this card actually really, in my mind, kind of puts Shin in the guise of Roland. And the reason why, you'll get to it. You'll get to it in book 4 in Wizard and Glass. But there's an entire scene. Well, actually, the entire book story arc is a recollection. And there's a fight between Roland and a group called the Coffin Hunters. And like this setup is, it's not exactly the same, but it has that exact same kind of feel. Roland in that story really, he was trying to do something else, and the Coffin Hunters kept like getting in his way and and they weren't good people, and he knew they weren't good people, but he was trying to turn a blind eye to them, and he was trying to like, just like, I have a mission, I don't want to deal with your, crap right now, leave me alone. And they kept like pestering him, and they kept doing stuff just enough to get his attention. And at the end of the book, basically, he finally is like, okay, fine, you have my attention, we're gonna settle this. That's how I feel that this conversation is kind of setting up Shin and the shadows. Is like, Shin is kind of like, I really want to, I don't know what he has else that's going on, but like, it kind of feels like there's something else that Shin is trying to do. And the shadows, like this thorn it's a thorn in his side, it just keeps coming up. It just keeps coming up. And he's just annoyed. Like, it's not that
he's dealt with it before.
Yeah, he's like, I've already killed this guy. Why do I have to kill another one? So, but I cannot not read the ghost in this card as being just pissed at the shadows and at the the concept of Thorn in general. And I think and to me, that really, because and chat's talking about it right now too. I think that if this was yours ghost, which is the other kind of one of the other theories, that Shin's ghost is yours ghost. If it had been yours ghost, I kind of would get the feeling like that yours ghost would be, it would still be emotional, but it wouldn't be like angry. I mean, it would just be kind of like maybe frustrated or like paranoid. I mean, like I don't know. Like, I don't think it would be angry. It
would be hard to read it another way because of the interruption.
Right. And to me, that's the kicker, is the fact that it interrupts it.
I do read in here that the ghost is calling Shin on his, like the ghost is not going to equivocate or
right.
Allow for, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Yeah, exactly. I think the ghost is like, we're nipping this. We're nipping this in.
No, we've seen this before, and it didn't end well. I don't think the ghost is necessarily angry, but Blue did read the ghost like Shin and the ghost were married, and Shin had just come in late smelling of alcohol. So that's how Blue read it. So that's on Blue. That's not on the writers.
Where have you been? Where have you been?
Yeah, ghosts do not have feet, but I completely pictured a ghost just tapping its toes with hands on its hips. Then what will you do? You're like your father.
I mean, you can, God, you can read. I mean, okay, I've been trying to reread it in my head as if it was a little bit different voice, more of our Nolan bot, just matter of fact. And you can read it that way. It's a little bit different. It's just, It's not. You can do it less angry.
You can tone down the anger and maybe have it just be more of a I'm going to be blunt with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I can see
if you do
too.
like the Vanguard has an eye on the Vanguard has their eyes on many things. I mean, you could read it kind of stunted and ghost.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
Ghost-like.
I don't know. I've always read this as the ghost is kind of pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
It can be.
Hell has no fury like a ghost scorned.
Oh gosh,
You're just like
ghost
your father.
messed up with Thorn. What?
Now I have like an image of a ghost like not tapping its foot but like twitching to the side a little bit, like it's like
because of the thorn.
Because like Justin was saying, tapping its foot.
Because I ruined it.
Because Justin ruined it. What would a ghost twitch be like?
We saw it with the ghosts that were infected with SIVA.
Oh yeah, 404, Ghost 404.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So
now I'm like imagining a ghost with like a tick, like
someone who's been having too much drugs and has an itch for it.
Hey man, hey, you got it.
Oh God.
Got any moats?
You got any moats of light?
Got any moats? I got these ascendant shards, man.
Man, ever since that starfish came into the neighborhood, ever since that starfish got here, I just can't get my stuff anymore. I just can't get it.
You know where the exclusion zone is? I got these moats. That's awful. That's literally the worst thing I've ever done on this show. So, moving.
Good times.
So, moving on. Do we want to talk about Ghost Fragment Eris Morn?
Oh yeah. No, I think. Oh my God. Hang on. We have to take a second.
I think we broke Blue.
I still have the picture of it. You're just like your father.
You're just like your father. Spent all his money down at the ramen bar.
The ramen. Now I have an image of the traveler at the ramen bar.
Okay.
I could see you got a reputation booster. Where you been?
Where you been?
I'm literally making this wife ghost sound like Fraggle.
Like Fraggle.
It's a mix between Fraggle and Mesa.
All right, so Ghost Fragment Eris Morn. Oh God.
Okay.
I don't know. Do you want to read
Yeah.
it? I mean,
This is a long thing.
well, and so the reason I pulled this one is because this really presents, and I guess the reason was kind of similar to Ephrodite's little colony of pacifists. It presents the fact that there's more than one way to use the light. And this is also, we kind of mentioned this when we were talking about the theory of how the void interacts with everything, and like how the void can be the house of the ascendant realms and all that. Because you see in this, really what I pulled this in for is actually the ending. There's a lot of really cool stuff in this card. Mm-hmm. But the ending is actually what I really am kind of interested in. And it's basically the last two, well, actually the second to last sentence. It's not even a paragraph. It says, with those words and a gathered locus of power, she was gone. So she basically is able to teleport now.
She's been able to do that.
Well,
the Lost to Light mission,
right? But here's the thing: is in the Lost to Light mission, if you remember, it took her a lot of time and a lot of energy She just did this like that. And she,
Well,
I mean,
she's
she
just
like, she appears too, I think, right? Doesn't she teleport in?
Yes.
in the Lost to Light mission
No, here.
or here? I think so.
Yeah, that's right. Because it says in a corner of the room sat a chair. Cheap vinyl covered the chair could have been a relic from the Golden Age itself. And suddenly it creaked because in the stillness there was another measured source of breathing. So we don't know if she was already there, but it kind of implies that she just kind of like appears.
She just
And then like
with
yeah,
Eris, though,
go for it.
is this a manifestation of her light? Because Eris, we know she doesn't have a ghost anymore.
Right. Well, that's what I was about to say. So, like, in and actually, that's exactly what I was about to talk about. It says Eris Morn settled back into the chair, allowing the dark wisp of power she'd summoned to effortlessly flow from her back into the night. The green emanations from her shroud were stark against the dimness. So yes,
this is not.
It's not necessarily light, though, as we know it.
Yeah, but let me ask you this, though. This has nothing to do with our discussion tonight, but I think it's pretty much in keeping with the theme of the podcast so far. Is Eris a world carver right now? Like, does she...
That's what I was going to... Yeah.
Is she tearing a wound?
Does she have an ascendant realm?
I think she does.
Yeah.
Does she have a queen we don't know about?
Well, and I think it was DJ Cantrip with when we were talking on the Dame stream for the Ladies of Light. We talked about Eris a little bit, and it was either DJ. It was someone on that stream. I cannot remember. It was DJ Silver or more Corey. Brought it up, but yeah, I mean, this basically is the kind of description that you would assume someone who is stepping in and out of the throne world would have. Like, you know, it's and we know that having a throne world allows you to basically teleport because we have that happening with the Darkblade. The Darkblade is another example of someone using the throne world to step across very vast spaces. Because there was the scene where he kills Veltarlo, and then he is all of a sudden back challenging Oryx on the Dreadnought. And the kind of the implicit understanding there is that the only way he could be there was because he used his own throne world to kind of step between the spaces. And Kex, you know, I think I linked it. I don't know if I linked it last show or if it was the show before, but Kex has an amazing theory about how the void light actually plays a very big proponent in this model. And it basically it could be the potential sea of screams that we hear referred to in the Books of Sorrow, is the void light, like the vacuum of the void could be where these little, worlds are floating, you know, like
pocket worlds.
Like pocket world. Well, to be honest, in my head canon, the way I see it, and this is just kind of, and I don't really, but anyway, the way I see it is the Sea of Scream. If you think of the Sea of Screams as a literal sea, all these little pocket worlds are little glass bottles that are floating on it. They're safe from it, and they're able to be, you know, they float and they are dispersed throughout the Sea of Screams, which also kind of gives you the ability to kind of picture Toland, who is supposedly mapping this whole sea out, as literally being able to flit from bottle to bottle as the disembodied presence that he is, and actually map out the connections between the bottles that are floating on the Sea of Screams. Now, if you understand the Sea of Screams as maybe a manifestation of the void light, then that also kind of makes sense as well. And so what we're kind of seeing here is theoretically you could be seeing a guardian who has literally become ascendant. So my question there is she a shadow of Yore? Is this what the shadow? No, but I mean, like, is this power what the shadows are chasing?
I think that's what they're trying to attain, but
is it though?
I think, yeah, I think they want. not necessarily the teleporting or the moving between realities, but I think they yearn for darkness and the power and the what's the word, the freedom of it. You got like from the longer you read Dregden Yore's narrative, the more you got the impression that he saw himself kind of like a great white shark. Like he's like this apex predator. He has risen above things like morality, ethics, things like that. It's just nature at this point. Like you wouldn't call a shark evil for eating a fish, right? So
Right.
Well,
I think what the shadows yearn for more than anything else is to transcend from the kind of the shackles of morality and kind of the structure and rules of the world they live in into a more, I think they want to ascend to what they view as a more evolved state where they are more on that shark level.
But Eris did it a completely different way. She was forced to it. She didn't technically steal the light of others to get to this state. She didn't have
she
to.
seems frightened of herself though. It's a different path and it's a different result. And I think the path has a large influence on the result, which is
most certainly.
That's why you get the difference between someone who has actually seen the bowels of everything that is wrong with the world and the emo kids who want to say they've seen that.
It's the idea that Eris was thrust upon this. She's not seeking it out. So the manifestation of the darkness that she is able, if she's wielding darkness, I'm saying this as if it's a real thing, but I don't know for sure. If she is wielding a portion of darkness, she is doing it not because of the desire to consume. That I view the shadows of Yore and yourself as kind of like pre-Siva Sivas. They are wanting to consume light. Eris never ever shows any interest in doing that I have seen in any of the cards. She doesn't want to take. She wants to do other things. We don't know exactly what her end goal is. I think she's more cunning than the shadows.
Yeah,
but we haven't
the only
seen
reason
so
the only
far.
reason I hesitate is like, she doesn't want to take Guardian's light, but she definitely wants to take or kill the Hive. And I guess this kind of also stems from, I don't really see there being a difference between light and dark. I think everything is light, and it's just the use that is determining what you identify it as. Because if this may be this, I'm going to qualify this statement. This could just be me being nitpicky about the presentation of the text here. But when it says the dark wisp of power, dark is not capitalized.
That's true.
And that's why I said it could be me nitpicking. Okay, it could be, but usually if they're going to talk about that, and even if it was capitalized, I really would, I would probably still be in the same boat. Ulan Tan is kind of the theory. Everything is light is interconnected everywhere. Everything is light. It's just the use of it.
Everything is energy.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's the Force, basically.
Let me ask you this: have you seen the movie? When you talk about that, like she's taken the Hive, or she's killed the Hive, and she seems to have like almost a bloodlust for doing so.
Revenge.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie Apocalypto?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a speech, like a little monologue by the chief in the beginning of that movie that just really stuck with me. And I think it's in that movie. I can't remember, but it's basically there's a man and he's got a hole in the side in the center of him.
The man sat alone.
Yeah, and he's basically trying to fill this hole. He's trying to fill this hole with anything he can get his hands on.
Mhm.
So he kills animals and he tries to fill the hole with that. And then he kills other men and then he tries to accrue things. And it just never, it's an abyss, like this hole. It's not going to be filled. So he's constantly hungry. That's how I view the hive. Like they're never able to actually possess the thing that they hunger for the most, which is the light. It's just they're trying to fill that abyss in themselves. And wow, that just got poetic. Like that's
no,
next level.
It's the speech that's like the whole. I saw a hole in the man, deep like the hunger that he'll never fill.
Yes,
that's what makes him sad and what makes him want. He will go on taking and taking until one day the world will say, "I am no more and I have nothing left to give."
Exactly. Does that not completely just like sum up the hive?
Well, and
that sums up.
It does.
That sums up your too.
Yeah.
To a degree, I think it does. I still think your. Anyways, I think your has a lot deeper story than. I mean, the hive have a deep story, but I think yours is much more convoluted and kind of. I think your actually is a tragic hero. In the sense that I still think the last minutes of Yor, I think the last minutes of Yor was him giving, I think he pulled a Darth Vader. I think he allowed himself to be killed. But
the tropes.
I think he did.
It's true. It's just a trope, but the reason why is because it's a good one if it's used.
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, how about this, Blue? I think he did, but not for the altruistic.
Yeah,
reason.
no, I know.
He did.
I think
he did because
I think it wasn't
evil.
because he was trying to corrupt Shin.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he finally succeeded.
Right. But did he? Because Ghost Fragment Last Word 5 would actually imply that maybe he didn't, if that was the case. Because Shin is reluctant.
Depends on what your idea of success is. If
Right.
his idea of success is going out and taking all of the posers out and corrupting himself in that respect, kind of being a what did you call it? Oh gosh, what's Batman?
Oh, vigilante.
Vigilante. Thank you.
Awesome.
If he's that too. If he's going out and doing it without specific orders to or an actual decree of doing it, is he really going to end up being that much better?
Yeah, no, and I think that's where Shin is coming from. I think is like he sees that, like, if he takes the law into his own hands, then where does it stop? That's the problem with vigilantes is once you take that step, where does it stop? Where once you cross the line, there is no line. Batman has a line, but then you also have characters like the Punisher.
Well, Batman even warns Robin constantly about that line.
Yeah, no, and I mean, without a self-imposed line, there is no. Once you cross that line, and once you become the vigilante, then that's a very dangerous gray area. And I think Shin totally sees that. Not that he kind of backs away from it, but I mean, he definitely, to me, see that's how that card reads. Is like Shin's kind of like. I don't know if I don't know if I want to. Okay, let's go. Like he
just needs a snippy English butler, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, he has one. The Ghost.
I love him. It's not English though.
I was totally
awesome if he was.
Now I hear him as Alfred.
Because some men just want to see the world burn.
Where you been? You're just like your father. Your third father.
I almost spit my coffee out.
Your third father was just like this. But no. Where was I? What was I gonna say?
You don't know.
I don't know. I'm completely sidetracked.
I ruined it.
Actually, what I was I remember. My one question here is: so now we've seen a guardian who could potentially be a guardian becoming ascendant and actually taking a throne world. Well, Eris doesn't have a ghost, but does this mean that her next death might not be her last?
Depending if she is able to have enough energy like the hive. But that brings into debate if she has a line of tribute, because that's how the hive end up getting energy. If she functions the same way.
I mean,
she has reputation.
I was just about to do that. Yep. She does have tribute, technically, because she has the reputation boost. Like she has the reputation, and she has her own faction, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, technically speaking, you could argue that is a line of tribute.
Slightly different, but yeah.
Oh, right. I mean, definitely slightly different. What do you sell light to her for anything?
No, I don't believe so. You just sell
a
bunch
materials?
of stinking materials.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of them smell like moldy cheese.
Oh, is it just the shards? Wasn't the shards just for touch? The quack gun?
Not the moldering shard?
Moldering shards.
No, moldering shards are for the raid. You're thinking of Hadium flakes.
Yeah,
I think maybe.
Yeah, I think I'm there. Anyways.
But the other thing is, the hive are the only ones that we know of that have given off this. Well, they're vampiric, but they have given off this sort of black, smoky, oozing type imagery.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so far-fetched to think that something else couldn't do that as well. I mean, in some respects, I know the Cabal do that because of the release of gases from their suit when you shoot them. But the fact that darkness doesn't necessarily manifest itself the same way.
Well, I mean, I guess. Well, here's my rebuttal to the calling of that darkness. I just always saw that as blighted light.
Well, okay. At this point, I'm kind of referencing darkness.
Right? No. Light, but I mean, like going back to my argument that there isn't a quote unquote darkness. Right. I think it's just blighted light, because isn't the blighted light the bombs that you set free in the King's Fall, right?
After the ogres.
The most annoying aspect of that entire fight is getting all 16 going off.
Yeah, without having the ogres run across the map.
Mm-hmm.
But
mine teleport.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is the fact that you're assuming that she might have an ascendant realm,
right?
Because
no. Yes,
we know that it's associated with a hive,
right?
Associated with a hive, but the idea that she could have a manifestation of this blighted light. Maybe she has something entirely different.
Right. And we know that she has Toland's journal, which I still want to read. By the way, if anyone has,
it'd be interesting.
Anyone out there, it would be
Bungie?
a very nice, very, very nice read.
Bungie, please.
Do we want to talk about the warlords just a little bit too? Because I think
the warlords in the beginning of Zavala, like, kind of the uprising of Guardians, might not be a bad thing to talk about too. I know we did a little bit last week with the tower in the city, but how Guardians kind of came to and his actual rising itself.
Yeah.
What he talks about in it.
Well, because like, I guess in chat, we were kind of talking about, what does it mean to be a Guardian, right? Because when we got the Rise of Iron, we kind of figured, we learned that not all Risen were good people, which is not, I mean, it wasn't a huge shock, but it was nice to get that clarification. And so like, I put this in the chat, so I'm going to just read it because I still kind of hold to it. But I said, what does it mean to be a Guardian? I think that it's about the use of powers granted, and we see this theme repeatedly occur in a variety of series, but here specifically, it's about the protection and defending of the last flickers of humanity. In my opinion, this was presented beautifully in the evolution of light bearers as presented in the Rise of Iron DLC. Figures returning from the dead with immense powers, and they are presented with a stark choice. Do they subjugate those around them without their power, or do they foster a community and lead through service? Warlords chose the former. The Iron Lords, who later became known as Guardians, chose to stand against their own brethren in order to protect those lesser than them from the oppression of the Lightbearers. They chose to foster a dream that the Risen and humanity could truly stand side by side and push back the rising darkness, and they proved that dream to be true. And then you have the Hive, the egocentric paradigm of the logic of the sword and the hyper-aggressive model of survival of the fittest. The city promotes an allocentric paradigm, which is the survival of the community over that of the individual. Note, there are inherent issues with both views here, and interestingly enough, neither is completely evil or good, and in and of itself. Individual focus promotes narcissism and selfishness if pushed too far. Example from our own history can be seen in the later cultural settings of Rome. However, individual focus also promotes a very, very healthy competition, which can be seen in that same culture in Rome in early culture settings. It can be a very good thing. Community above all can lead to a disbursement of individual worth and the lessening of the unique value of each person's ideas and sense of self. We talked about that a little bit in the problem if a communal sense is pushed too far. You see this in a lot of dystopian models, especially movies. Movies make this a huge deal, where they view the chain is only as weak as the weakest, or the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. It's great in theory, terrible in practice, because what happens is that leads to eugenics. I mean, I'm not going to even try to feather that. That view as a social paradigm is very dangerous, because what that translates into is you need to cull the weak, because we need our society to be the strongest, and that means that you have to get rid of the weak, and that's a terrible thing in a community. So, but that is not to say that communal, structures are bad. That's very good. You have the Guardians as the wolf pack, and the Hive as the tiger. It's the allocentric versus the egocentric, and like I said, neither of them are completely evil or good. We have a couple examples of Hive that could be questionably not necessarily evil. I mean, the Hive weren't evil before they became the Hive. They were the Krill, and they were subjugated to a lot of traumatic events, which led.
What about Ally Cool? He did it for love.
Oh yeah, the Darkblade. Well, yeah, he supposedly he did it. Yeah, I mean there's
just stood outside her window with a Hive boombox.
Oh, is that what he did? Is he just stood? Yeah. Okay, let's go with that. I mean, even Oryx himself questioned the path that they were taking. And so there's a lot of examples though, but my point here is that, when you look at the progression of the Guardians in particular, when they were just the light bearers, they rose. So they became superhuman immediately. And then you put them in the Dark Ages, which is in an aptly named era of the game, where there was no city, there was no structure, and it was literally fiefdoms. And that's where you get the term warlords. They were warlords. They carved out territories, and they were like, no, this is my territory. I'm going to defend it the way I see it. And in their own little fiefdom, there could have been warlords that were more generous than others. Radagast was one of them. He might not have necessarily called himself a warlord, but by definition, Radagast and the Iron Lords, that was a war band. Radagast was a warlord, but they identified themselves as Lords of Iron, and then later as Guardians, because their entire concept was to lead through service, not to lead through might and fear. And I think that's the distinction for what it means to be a Guardian that's been solidified in the Rise of Iron, and even in the Age of Triumph a little bit. I mean, you see that with the Dawning too, where they talk about, all the sacrificing that the Guardians did, leading civilians through the very deadly winters. You had Guardians who died, who were permanently killed in that process. And so I don't know. That was my kind of response to that. And that's kind of a common response that I've been giving a lot is I view Guardians as the wolf pack, and I view the Hive as, the Shere Khan, and we all know how that story ends.
And even going to just talking about what a guardian is, we get Zavala himself talking what he thinks a guardian is. And we know that we're going to have the idea of what a guardian is challenged in D2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the whole point of us losing our light is like, are we really guardians still?
Yeah, and I think it's a psychological thing. I don't think it's. I mean, having superpowers definitely helps. I won't argue that, but I think it's the mentality,
the ideals that you embody.
Right, but even in his speech, he actually hits it on the head on what he thinks a guardian is. I mean, he nails it, but he doesn't necessarily realize that he's nailing it because he's so driven by the idea of a super and everything like that, because the idea of light is so ingrained. But he said, reading back through, so for as deep and wide as humanity's rivers have run, it has now been reduced down to a precious few, needing something to believe in and a place to call home. This is what we've been called to. The future that we fight for, the future that we will protect. That in and of itself, that is what we do. That is Guardian. Regardless of light or not light. We take care of the rest of what humanity is left. We are in charge of taking care of them. Not because they put us in charge, but because we have charged ourselves to do that.
We are Guardian.
Dun 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 dun.
Titan.
Titan.
I can never do it the way you do it.
Titan. It's basically Animal from the Muppet Babies.
Oh God.
Titan.
What was the other?
Green.
I
are Hunter.
I are Hunter.
I is Warlock.
Oh God.
Titan. Those are the classes of Guardians, so just in case everyone was wondering, that was informational.
Hunter is, what's his name from Ice Age? The sloth.
Yes.
Who is Warlocks?
Wizard Squad.
Warlocks, is William Murderface from Metalocalypse.
Okay.
I is Warlock. And Titan is Animal from Muppet Babies, which is how Titans behave. All they do is throw tantrums and blow bubbles.
Oh gosh, maybe not anymore though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, their bubble ability has been taken away. Maybe.
Yeah, now they're throwing frisbees. How much more grown up are they now?
Okay, I love the fact that they can throw the shield. That makes me really excited.
Yeah, I really want to play Ultimate Frisbee too, Green. But I've also got to shoot the mans.
I'm too short to play Ultimate Frisbee. Anyway.
It's just, does anyone else think it'd be awesome if, like, you threw the Sentinel shield and a dog just ran out of nowhere and caught it and ran off?
Well,
that's what the Cabal have. The Cabal have the dogs that steal their shield.
Land shark! So yeah, this is the vault. We need to move on to shout outs.
I did really want to quickly make a comment. I really like the fact that they had an actual call out to the concept of crests for Guardians. With what's the shotgun happy game? Supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The crest is actually that's a medieval concept. And it was just really cool having that actually kind of be a thing that they actually incorporated directly into game. Those, the crests that we've seen over and over and over everywhere, there are actually things that you can pick up now and interact with. I thought that was just really cool. So that was just, that made me really kind of, I was like, yes, because the other thing is the entire concept of killing an enemy and taking their crest. that's a direct nod to what an actual heraldic crest was. You'll see that a lot of times Scottish soldier or Scottish noblemen would not wear the traditional way to wear your crest in medieval times was as a choker, like a necklace, which is problematic in hand-to-hand combat because one of the really common ways of getting killed was, decapitation, which is kind of problematic if you're wearing a necklace because then the necklace, falls off and they can't identify your body. So what a lot of nobility would start doing is they'd start wearing pins so that their crest would stay on their body. Then that led to the looting of the crest from other things. The other thing that you'd see often is the actual taking of the flag, which actually I'm kind of excited to see if, with Destiny 2 and us being able to personalize our clan flags. I'm curious if in Control of if they have like a capture the flag game type, we could have clan versus clan, where you actually are stealing the other clan's actual flag. It's just, to me, that would be a really cool thing. So I don't know if that's even gonna be. I don't even know if they could do that, but it would just, to me, because that's the same concept. It's stealing the flag. Whenever you see old movies about the wars, whenever they would conquer the hill and they would lower the flag and raise their own flag, that was kind of the we've won moment. But yes, shout outs. Green, go.
Shout out. Blue kind of did mine already, way back in the middle of the episode.
I didn't do anything.
Liar.
Damn it, Blue.
My shout out was to book club. The fact that what we're reading is The Dark Tower, and I am more and more confused by things that are going on, but at least it's a little bit more straightforward. Like, I understand the fact that the guy is trying to smuggle things in, and that although the metaphysics of it is like, okay, why does that work?
Worse. It just gets worse.
Yeah, and if you haven't, we're in the second book. If you'd like to read along, please join us in the Discord chat during book club. Anyway, that's my PSA and earlier PSA. So, Justin, tag.
I'm in.
You're in.
So, big shout out to our guest on the extra lore of Titanfall from last night, because we're doing a marathon podcast
that Justin was not aware of.
Yeah. Thank you very much to Taylor B for joining us last night to talk Titanfall. Would have been really horrifying if I was considered the expert on that, because I don't like being called an expert, because an X is a has-been and a spurt is a leak under pressure. I'm neither of those things, and I don't appreciate being called that. So I really appreciate Taylor taking that bullet for us all.
God.
And
it was like the most backhanded insult ever. Good job.
No.
I hate you a little bit.
No, I love Taylor. He's
I know.
awesome.
It's
and also big shout out to my Iron Banner group from tonight for dealing with me leaving at the last moment for a podcast that is apparently happening tonight. Hashtag preparation.
Hashtag we love you, Fraggle.
Yes. But yeah. And also big thank you to Blue and Green for joining me here this evening. Really fun talk.
Shout out to Redneck Ma, who is our MVP of the week for Justin wrangling. Because apparently Ma jumped in to the actual game chat on Justin's game and reminded him, I'm imagining rather gently, that there was a podcast going on.
Listen. I've got a lot of places to be. I can't be expected to remember them all.
Are you important?
I am. Apparently, on any given night, there's no fewer than 6 people looking for me.
We all messaged him on Xbox. It was great.
And then our email topic for next week is going to be a lore dive into the Deepstone Crypt. So be sure to send us any thoughts or questions or comments. Again, we do have the new site set up so that it should be a little bit easier for people to get in touch with us over there.
There you go, Blue.
Yeah, hey, well, it should be because there's an embedded email page on the contact page, so it should be a lot simpler for people to do that. But yeah, run through the outro, and then may stick around for a little bit of an after show. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for a live streaming of the episode each week, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our other sites can also be found with our episode archives over on the new and improved www.focusfirechat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any feedback or questions for our team concerning the podcast. And please, please, please let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback on iTunes as well. Also, make sure to check out our partner podcast within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So, until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.